Okay, guys, let's talk about the Batman. Director Matt Reeves' brand new interpretation of Batman. This starts with Batman in year two. We'll go through the sort of general premise and then get into my thoughts on the film. So this is obviously starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, Jeffrey Wright, John Turturro, Peter Sarsgaard, Andy Serkis, and the unrecognizable Colin Farrell. I wanted to list all of those people because it's a serious heavy hitters list of actors in this movie. Look, I'll start with the premise, which is during his second year of crime fighting, Batman pursues the Riddler, a serial killer who targets elite Gotham City citizens. I'll leave it at that. We'll start with the cons first and then go into the pros. The cons, I think it's going to be a con on a lot of people's list, which is the movie is long. Just shy of 3 hours. It's 176 minutes. Look, 3-hour movies are not everybody's bag, so I can get the understanding that people don't want to be there that long. That being said, it's only kind of a half con because you are riveted to this story. At least I was. So it's 3 hours, but it's not 3 hours with you checking your watch is basically the easiest way I can explain it. That's really my only con for this movie. And again, I think that's going to be, for a lot of people, it's like, oh, it's 3 hours. That's a long time. But if you are riveted to the story and you're interested in what you're seeing, I don't think that's as much of a hassle for most people going in, especially if they know that going in. Pros. I don't know, everything else. This movie is fantastic. Look, Matt Reeves basically sets up a neo-noir crime film, very much in that sort of like 70s style that just is like gritty as hell, and it just pulls you in, and it's so much more about the storytelling than it is about these like, you know, common sort of like big action sequences. Not that there isn't action sequences in it. There's actually quite a lot of it. But the story is far more important. Look, I think, you know, everybody wants to know, how does Robert Pattinson do in this role as a year two Batman? Pretty damn great. Like he's really good. I know some people were concerned because they probably haven't really seen him in much. I think you should see him in other things besides maybe hearing about him in a Twilight movie, which I know is a lot of people's sticking point for when he was cast for this. Robert Pattinson is a very good actor. Look, he performs this role, this sort of dual role as Bruce and Batman, and even sort of less so as Bruce, I would argue, in a way that you would expect a year two Batman, right? He's still pretty screwed up, still very much not fully fleshed out as being able to do this like playboy sort of, you know, fake persona, and also this, you know, terrifying person who walks around at night beating up criminals. He's much more focused on the Batman is the only thing about him that ever matters, where at least veteran Bruce Wayne realizes like, I gotta play it to the crowd and pretend to be this other guy so I can do what I really want to do at night. That is helped tremendously in like sort of fleshing that out by Andy Serkis being there as Alfred Pennyworth, his butler, you know, his main man. And it's really interesting because what you get is Andy Serkis's Alfred is like, look, you have to grow into this other person, the sort of Batman that we know as the audience. Where you've got Pattinson, who is like, that stuff is not important to me, right? This, like, what I'm trying to do is the most important thing. And if I fail at that, then who cares, right? Which is interesting, right? Because it's not the type of Batman you normally get. You normally get the sort of fully fledged Batman who's like, I get my entire role in all of this. Where this Batman is still trying to find his way. Again, it's year two Batman. And I think it's important to understand that, because I think if you're trying to compare his actions to what a veteran Batman would do, it's a little odd. So, but the story they're telling, Pattinson does a phenomenal job. Like because he's the most raw Batman that we've seen, he's probably one of my favorites, to be honest. Like you got some of that in Keaton's portrayal in '89 of that sort of like real raw craziness underneath Bruce Wayne. And in this one, you kind of get it a lot more fully fledged. And I appreciated that. Zoe Kravitz playing Selena Kyle / Catwoman. Look, I think it's the truest Catwoman that we've seen to date. I think Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman in Batman Returns was awesome. I thought she was great as like a full-on crazy Catwoman. But we haven't gotten a true cat burglar Catwoman. And for the first time, that is what we got. And it's a more traditional version of that character. And Zoe Kravitz, she gives it up in spades, man. She really does. I really liked her. She's a fully fledged character. She's not just like damsel in distress or just like a good looking woman just standing next to Bruce Wayne throughout the film and interacting with Batman. Like, she's actually a real character in and of herself. And I really actually appreciated that. Look, the Riddler, it's not much of a secret that he's played by Paul Dano. It is an interpretation that character has deserved for decades. And sadly, the only time we've ever gotten the Riddler in a live action movie has been, Jim Carrey's interpretation, which is fun, I guess. But this Riddler is much more terrifying and layered and interesting. Clearly, even the design is sort of mirrored after the Zodiac Killer, which is really kind of cool. And the way they tell his story and why he does what he does and the fashion at which he goes about doing those things is pretty interesting and like very different than what you would expect from a Batman movie. So he was great. Look, I won't go through everybody here in the cast. Jeffrey Wright was great as Commissioner Gordon. Jeffrey Wright's great in everything. Like, he just is. And then the last one I'll jump on is Colin Farrell as the Penguin. He is unrecognizable in this movie. Like, accent wise, look wise, he is great. And he stands out. I mean, as a villain, he truly, truly stands out. And like, you don't spend a lot of time with him. I mean, he's in the movie like a lot, but it's, it's kind of like fits and starts kind of thing, as you would expect. But he's a very good villain, like sort of connected to this story. He's not at the center of it. He's obviously the Riddler is more of a center villain, but he's a very good sort of ancillary villain here. I love Colin Farrell as Penguin. I thought he was great. Look, the story in and of itself about the Riddler going after these Gotham elites sort of unwinds into this mystery as to why. And it's not just like, I'm going after them because like they're rich. Like it's way more complex than that. And it makes the Riddler far more layered and interesting than I think people will expect. Right. And the movie really takes you on a roller coaster through things. There's another character in this movie that I think I should mention because it was one of my personal favorite moments. Look, it's the best introduction of a Batmobile in live action, period. It is. It is awesome. It is like that thing. It feels like a living animal throughout the movie. It is a beast. And it's very, very cool to see on screen. Look, everybody is great in it. Everybody interacts really well. The mystery and like, because you're pulled in to the story so deeply. You are so invested. Even after 2.5 hours, you're like, oh, I got a half hour left. You're still super invested to see how things end and how they wrap up. It is the only, I would argue, worthwhile detective Batman story that we've ever gotten in live action, if ever, really. But it's a real detective story. Like, if you like The Long Halloween that recently came out, or you read the original comic, like, it's not that story, obviously. But it's very much in that vein of just like, this is a mystery worth paying attention to watch it get solved by Batman. And they like the riddles are cool and like trying to figure those things out and what they mean. And certain characters think it means one thing and other characters think it means another thing. So it's not like, this is the answer, this is the answer, this is the answer, as they just kind of flow through it. Like, it's not that simple. And they have to backtrack and try to figure things out. And it's kind of cool, like trying to figure out where these pieces fall. And like, as the audience, you find yourself getting pulled into the actual trying to figure it out yourself. It's a real, not a whodunit, because you know who done it, but more of a like, why did they do it kind of thing. So that's really fascinating. And John Turturro actually is also in this, as I mentioned earlier, who's great. And he's got an interesting character turn as well. Again, the biggest con, I think, for a lot of people is going to be it's about 3 hours. look, it might be the best Batman movie I've seen. And that's not I'm not a person like, I thought 89 was okay and I thought the Bale movie was okay. No, I love those movies. Look, I think those movies are great. But I think Matt Reeves has a hook on what it is to make a Batman film in 2022. That's just, it fits and it works. Like, there are some parts, especially like as the film is winding to the end, that touches on like real world things that I think was really, really neat and just smartly done and realistic in that world. Look, I loved it. I thought the Batman, like, if I have to give it a score out of 5, it's a 5 out of 5 for me. I know this isn't going to be like the standard for whatever DC does, but it'd be really cool if they did, because I think Reeves definitely has his hooks into what that character is, especially a young Batman. There are like moments. There are moments where you can actually see the difference between what a veteran Batman would do and what a young Batman would do. Like, there are just like little, like, you miss it if you blink kind of things where the character won't do certain things, and you're like, dude, Batman doing this for 20 years would definitely do that. But yeah, this guy's like, I've only been doing this for 2 years. Like there are little things, and that to me like kind of makes the character feel rich. It's like they get that. They get those moments. Like, he wouldn't be this like perfect, superhero that we've, kind of grown to see in movies. So I appreciated the difference. Again, I think Pattinson is excellent in this. I really do. I hope they make more of them. Like, because, and apparently there's a sequel already on, being talked about. So yeah, I'm in for this Batman. I think it's really great. I think it's dope. 5 out of 5. Go check out the Batman. Go see it multiple times if you can. I think it's wonderful. And again, if you're into sort of neo-noir, heavy storytelling like Seven and that sort of thing, this is for you. This is 100% for you. So check out the Batman, and we will see you guys next time.